Call a regular meeting of the City Council to order with a roll call. Oh, and this meeting is being recorded.
Bona,
Here.
Buddington,
Here.
Cohen,
Here.
Harpin,
Here.
Hopkins,
Here.
Lamb,
Here.
Forrest,
Here.
Moran,
Here.
Wilkinson.
Here.
We have 9 present.
We will stand for a moment of silence. Remember, tonight we will remember Leonard Keys. He established a drafting program at McCann Technical High School. The pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the minutes of January 23rd, 2018.
Move to approve.
Second?
So I think it was,
Lamb and Buddington. Keep moving and I'll tell him.
okay. So, it was a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
He'll be coming out. All right, paper number 11,646-A. Without objection, file the communication. Oh, sorry. Mayor's communication, 7-A, regarding a new zoning ordinance for retail marijuana. Without objection, we'll file the communication. And Mayor.
Thank you. I will summarize the communication. This is a follow-up to the communication number 7, which was introduced at the council meeting of January 9th, 2018. The communication announced the formation of a retail marijuana zoning working group. That group included representation from the council, the Office of Community Development, the North Adams Police Department, the North Adams Public Schools, the Health, Licensing, Planning, and Zoning Appeals Boards, and 2 members of the community at large. The group, which held 3 meetings in the month of January, reviewed a draft ordinance that was developed by the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission and modified that based on input. One of the meetings was a public hearing held in chambers on January 24th. In addition to public comment, the working group also accepted written comment on the draft ordinance. In your packet, you have the current draft of the ordinance, and I want to just highlight 3 points with regard to the ordinance and the work of the working group. The first is that the working group added places of worship to the list of entities that are subject to a 500-foot setback from a licensed marijuana establishment in the ordinance. That's a more definitive requirement than was laid out in the Massachusetts general laws related to the licensing of liquor and package stores, which is what we used as a model for drafting the ordinance. So again, the question is for the council or for the planning board as they take this up is that a stricture they want to hold in place, or is that something they would want to look at that's outside of the scope of what the regulations require? The additional change that the working group established was a 500-foot setback from any daycare facility. This would include the 2 daycare centers currently operating in the city. That would be Child Care of the Berkshires and the Y, as well as any state licensed daycare. So that would include any home daycare in the community. And again, this is different from the draft regulations of the State Cannabis Commission, which only references daycare centers, which would be, again, the Y and CCB. The final point to make people aware of is that in addition to the ordinance, when that is brought forward for the council, there are 3 additional items that will be brought forward for consideration to the council at the appropriate time. Those are a proposed public consumption bylaw, the corresponding fine for violations of the public consumption bylaw, and an article regarding the local option on recreational marijuana excise tax. again, we'll see those coming forward when this comes back to council. So I would also just make a quick note around timeline for this process. The process I established was toward the goal of aligning the ordinance approval with the April 1st date that state applications for retail licenses will be accepted by the Commonwealth. And to get there from this point, I would suggest these steps be taken. That the ordinance be referred to the planning board for a joint public hearing with the council, and that this take place no later than March 5th. That date puts a second reading within the 21-day public comment period after the hearing. And then, assuming that happens, that this would be brought forward to the council again for March 13th for a first reading, and then to the meeting on the 27th for a second reading and potentially a vote on action. That's if everything aligns and there are no places where the work needs to deviate from that. This is a perfect world proposal, understanding that we don't live in a perfect world, and that these things could change. However, this gets us in line with April 1st if we can hit the mark. But handing it now to council and planning board, it would be for you to do your due diligence on it, and if it needs to extend past that point, that would be obviously appropriate.
So we're going to save discussion for the next paper, which will be the actual ordinance. So at this point, if all in favor of filing the communication.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So we'll move on to the next paper, number 11,646-A, an ordinance amending the revised ordinance, Chapter Z, by adding the new subsection, Section 10.12, licensed marijuana establishments. Need a motion to refer to the planning board and to postpone the meeting of the 27th. So I need a motion.
So moved.
Postpone?
Yeah.
To allow for the public
Oh.
hearing, yes?
Correct.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. So Counselor Buddington,
Second?
second.
Sorry, excuse me, clarification. What are we making a motion for?
Right now, it is
Refer to
to
the
be
planning.
referred to the planning board and to postpone to the meeting of the 27th.
Okay.
Yep, so is Counselor Buddington and Counselor Hopkins. Okay, now we can go into discussion. Counselor Wilkinson.
I think we're kind of moving along too fast here. I'm not opposed to the ordinance. I think it should be referred to a city council committee for more discussion. We have a paper in front of us. I don't know how familiar the rest of the councilors are with this paper before it just goes back to the planning board, where it's going to just go through an open hearing and move on. I had the opportunity to go to some of the working committee meetings, which I thought, believe me, they're very professional, very efficient. They did a wonderful job. I didn't see a whole lot of counselors there. So we can read the document and move it to the planning board, but we don't have a chance to talk amongst ourselves about things that may concern us. I'd rather see it go to government committee rather than the planning board. It won't hold it up that much.
Is that an amendment? Are you going to be looking for an
I'm
amendment
just
to the
making
original?
I'm just making a comment.
Okay, so we'll continue on with discussion and
That's
see
right.
where it goes. Okay, Counselor Cohen and then Counselor Forrest.
I will tell you, I did do my research on this, and I did speak with the police department, and I think I understand it pretty well. I think going maybe to government might be an additional step. There are a few things that I have in there here that I think maybe should be added for clarification. One of the things was for the places of worship, I understand that it's for active places of worship. I don't know if I'm correct on that. And then the daycare facilities, I think that it only will go for the daycare facilities that are not in residential areas, because residential areas for the zoning is completely out anyway. So I don't know if that's some wording that we need in there as well, because I was confused as to daycare facilities are all over the city. Where would we put something if we went with the daycare facility? So residential area is already out on that. And then that's pretty much it. I don't know if the active church should be added on that.
Councilor LaForest.
So several things. First of all, the timeline that the mayor is recommending. The recommendation is consistent with the April 1st initiation of license applications at the state level. If the city does not have ordinances in place prior to April 1st, anyone wishing to pursue an application from the Cannabis Control Commission would be able to do so without local control. So the ordinances have to be in place by then, or there wouldn't be any local control of those applications. And so, meaning a potential business could proceed with an application, could come in, could site anywhere, a residential district, an industrial district, downtown district. So that is the purpose, or the reasoning behind the expedited timeline to meet that April 1st deadline. And then so places of worship would be active places of worship, more or less based on the tax roll. I think that was the understanding of the working group. And then third, Councilor Cohen is correct in saying that licensed daycare facilities that are cited in a residential district wouldn't apply because no licensed establishments, retail marijuana establishments would be permitted in a residential district. And then I do also, just for point of clarification, in the draft ordinances, there is a 500-foot setback, but that doesn't pertain to much of the downtown area because these don't apply to the south side of Main Street, which falls into the redevelopment authority, and then also the Heritage State Park area south onto State Street, which has independent jurisdiction under the mayor's office. So there was a great deal of concern about the 500-foot setback eliminating much of downtown, and it actually doesn't eliminate all of downtown, again, because the south side of Main Street, moving south past the Oasis Plaza, is part of the redevelopment authority. And again, not to repeat myself, but also the Heritage State Park falls under a separate jurisdiction.
Yes, Councilor Lamb.
Just to touch base on what Councilor Cohen said about the being in a residential versus a non-residential area. Where our zones converge, though, that would still apply. So you could have a daycare facility in a residential zone, but if it's within 500 feet of a building that's in a commercial zone, it would negate the ability for that commercial building to. So I don't know if there is. I'm not sure if there's necessary language change there, but I just wanted to make that clear.
Yes, Councilor Buddington.
I'm curious what citing rules are in effect or will be in effect for the redevelopment authority zones. Since this doesn't cover them, what does?
Is that
I can
through
answer
through the chair to the mayor?
Through the chair to the mayor, sure, if he knows.
Or we also have Councilor Wilkinson, who may have an answer. So
Any
why
any
don't
answer's
we go
good.
with Councilor Wilkinson, since he's a councilor?
The redevelopment authority is an autonomous body. It answers to nobody. It has no rules. They meet. They do a very good job. We have the chairman here tonight. But what we're doing here tonight has absolutely. They can do whatever they want. Again, it's an autonomous body. Your statement about it's controlled by the mayor is incorrect, by the way.
I was referring to Heritage State Park.
No, the mayor has nothing to do with Heritage State Park. It's owned by the redevelopment authority.
Okay.
Mayor can do this or that, but it's owned by the redevelopment authority. So, and that might be the very best place to put a spot for something like this. So that's has always been one of my biggest things about this particular ordinance is the redevelopment authority is not included in this whatsoever. So this has nothing to do with that. They can be within 500 feet. They can, whatever rules we are imposing tonight, the redevelopment authority can do whatever they want.
Mayor, did you want to add to that at all?
That's consistent. So we really were looking at the zoned areas under the authority of the city, and not those under the authority of the redevelopment. Right.
I think we also, go ahead, Councilor Harpen.
I just want to verify, because looking at this, it looks like we're pretty much going to be set back from all of Main Street if we put in places of worship, because we have St. Elizabeth, and then we also have the churches on the north side of Main Street. So I'm just, it's looks to me, maybe I'm wrong, that Main Street would be out of the loop with this ordinance. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'd like to.
Okay.
The whole south side of Main Street is redevelopment authority. So this ordinance has nothing to do. That whole south side of Main Street, you can put one in there tomorrow if the redevelopment authority says it's okay.
So is that from Holden Street?
Well, we got, at the planning board last night, we found out that part of, I'm trying to think of the name of the church, it's on the Congregational Church. Part of, their building is in the redevelopment authority. It goes all the way down to trying to think of the plaza. That's in the redevelopment authority. The old transcript building, that whole area is in the redevelopment authority. All of the Heritage State Park is in the redevelopment authority. The hotel, Holiday Inn, is in the redevelopment authority. So what we're doing here tonight, or if we do, doesn't cover any of that.
Can I just remind councilors too to pull the mics up for the people at home and with the headphones? Thank you. Also, I'd like to remind councilors that, there is also going to be another public hearing. And Mayor, where do you see the council at this point having any additional meetings? Do you see us where we should have committee? I mean, obviously it's our choice, but was that sort of in your timeline?
Again, that the pieces that I framed out were bringing it forward to a hearing, and then the two readings. If there are places within that frame where there's an opportunity and a need for the council, whether it's the general government or one of the other committees to weigh in, I think that would be at your discretion. I'm hearing interest and potentially a need to do that, so that would be consistent. I would just say that as Councilor LaForest indicated, the April 1st deadline is a difference between having zoning in place and having siting by right. And so again, I'm not suggesting you expedite the process if the need to get it right takes more time, but that's the reality we're facing.
Yes, Councilor Wilkinson.
Yes. This is what we get for waiting to the last minute. Well, you'll have your chance. There's enough questions right here tonight to warrant the council getting into a committee. It could be a week from now. April is a ways away. It's not a long ways away, but there's time still to work. I think there's enough questions here tonight, and I certainly have more, and I went to the meetings, okay? I disagree with the church part, all right? But doesn't mean I'm not going to go for the whole thing in the long run, but I just don't see the need for that. But there's enough questions here tonight and enough concerns here tonight to go to at least one committee meeting with coming back in 2 weeks to the council to keep the process going. I mean, I'm sure that the council members that are on that committee or ones that want to attend that committee realize that time is of the essence. And it still can be done. We just can't just boulder this thing through.
Yes, Councilor Lamb.
Two things, and they're fairly unrelated to one another. The first one going back to the redevelopment authority jurisdiction component. Is there precedent, and I couldn't think of an example, is there precedent for us in our ordinance to indicate areas that are under the jurisdiction of XYZ do not fall under said ordinance? Because I'm just curious if that clarification makes sense to actually have in here. But I don't know if there's precedent to have that elsewhere in our ordinance. I don't know if that's a question that anyone could really answer immediately, but I do wonder if that's something that this might be missing just in terms of clarity for both people within the community and people outside the community that are looking in. And then I'm going to forget what the second piece is. If we do refer this to planning board for a joint hearing with the council, there is not anything necessarily preventing us from calling a meeting of general government without it being referred, correct?
Correct. Committee can make a committee meeting at any time they want. It doesn't have to come from the council. However, we can also tonight amend the initial motion to just add referring it to public safety if we want to. So that is also an option, but we don't have to refer it from council tonight to actually have it go to committee meeting. Tomorrow, the Public Safety Committee could say, we're going to have a committee meeting on this, and that's fine too. But maybe if we want to make it more official, and you want to amend it, if the sense is that the council should speak further on this and talk more on this through a committee, it may make sense to amend that in the initial motion. And still have it come back by the 27th. We could do it in the next, no reason we couldn't do it in the next 2 weeks. Councilor Wilkinson.
I'd like to make
and then-
I would like to make that amendment that would this be referred to public safety.
Does the amendment have to come from the counselor who made the initial motion? No. So, all right. So, Counselor Wilkinson currently made the
Bad with names,
amending that this we would also add to referring it to the planning board. I need a second on that amendment.
Second?
Okay. And then, we can have a all in favor of that amendment. Again, this is just on the amendment of adding sending it to, did you say specifically what committee?
Well, you had suggested public
Public safety,
service. I mean, it could also go to government since it's a change in zoning laws. So
Do you have a preference?
I don't, to be quite honest with you. I think probably public safety might be more appropriate only from the point of view, they're both appropriate. So but people may have more concern about how it's going to affect the health of the community rather than just a zoning change. So
I
can stand corrected if somebody else wants to go somewhere else.
Do you want to have your amendment have public safety?
Yes, we'll do public safety.
Okay. So currently, the amendment is to also refer this to Public Safety Committee. And who seconded it before? Was there
I did.
Buddington, you
I'll-
still
I'll
okay
second
with
that.
that?
I'm still good
All
with
right.
that.
So this is just adding, sending it to Public Safety Committee along with the initial motion. So all in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Okay. So that is now in the amendment. Now we can continue on with the rest of the discussion. Councilor LaForest, I believe you had your hand up?
Just for point of clarification, the language, the draft regulations from the Cannabis Control Commission weren't available until December 21st. So there wasn't really an opportunity to have, discussion on the language that didn't exist. So we have moved, along through an expedited timeline, but the working group did, work over the course of several meetings to, compile and amend the language, and again with the knowledge that the south side of Main Street would be independent of these ordinances.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Buddington.
I have a technical question through the chair to the mayor.
Thank you.
You mentioned that this 21-day public comment period after the hearing. Where is that required?
I'm going to refer that to Larissa Bernstein, who's the Director of the Office of Community Development.
Please make sure to speak into the mic for our listeners at home and here.
That is a planning board requirement, so the planning board has 21 days to respond after a public hearing.
Okay.
Any other discussion from councilors? Any discussion from the audience? Okay, yes. Name and address for the record, please.
Robert Cardamino, 173 Quincy Street. I know it was voted on overwhelmingly by the state, but we're on a slippery slope. Marijuana is not going to do this country any good. It's going to get into the hands of the children. It already has. They're making cookies. They're making candy. They're going to be buying it and selling it to kids or whatever happens. I know it's not going to stop, but it's just not a good thing for this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Name and address for the record, please.
David Whitney, 51 Burnham Street, North Adams. I've kind of been under the impression that churches don't have a say about the 500 feet for liquor stores. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that's been in effect for quite a few years. So if you're predicating 500 feet from a church, it's not based on liquor laws. And the other thought I had was, say somebody does put in a retail marijuana store, if a daycare moves in within 500 feet, are they grandfathered? Thank you.
All right.
Councilor Forrest, did you want to respond to that at all?
Can I just answer the question?
Sure, go right ahead.
So I'm not,
Excuse me, Mr. Whitney?
He's hard of hearing.
He's going to...
so I just wanted to say, I'm not fully up to speed on where we stand in terms of those regulations regarding the places of worship. However, that does exist in Massachusetts general law. I can't quote the exact place, but in the discussions of the working group, there was a lot of opinions, well-meaning and well-thought-out opinions as to what the setback should be. And eventually we decided on reflecting what the language was regarding liquor stores. But again, in committee or in the planning board, those could be amended. Also, the working group respected the ability of the planning board to be able to, say yes or no or make exceptions to those rules. And then the other point was, oh yeah, your second question, yes, those retail marijuana establishments would be grandfathered and would be able to remain at their site if a conflicting establishment came within the setback. Yes, sir.
Any other discussion from the gallery? Yes. Name and address for the record, please.
Henry Yeski, 62 Chase Ave. It's all right. It's been passed through the legislature and the presidential for marijuana to be sold, so it's legal. Let's not take it to the jails in Springfield. It's a lot harder to come away from them people and go to church for an hour to read what you can't do for 24 hours. And if it is going to be sold like any liquor store, is it going to be guarded with the PD? Because you don't need another fight for everybody to go down there and then call in the PD and have it destroyed that way.
Thank you. Anyone else from the gallery? Any other city councilors? We have a motion on the floor that was amended that is to refer this to the Planning Board and Public Safety Committee and to postpone it to the meeting of the 27th. Let's see. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Let's see. All right, paper number 11,649, Mayor's Communication number 8, recommending the reappointment of Armin Paul Boylett and the appointment of Dean Bullitt to the North Adams Airport Commission for the term to expire February 1st, 2021. The appointment of Mark Morandi to fill the unexpired term of Trevor Gilman for the term to expire February 1st, 2019. I need a motion to confirm the appointments.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
So it was Counselor Hopkins, and it was a debate between Buddington, Lamb.
Fine.
Yeah, there you go.
Full straw.
And Mayor?
I think the prefatory remarks were self-explanatory. These are three appointments that we need to make to the committee. I know that Mr. Boylett's been a long-serving member of the committee, and as noted in the communication, as a pilot, he brings valuable insight and experience and expertise to the role. So I have great confidence in bringing him forward for reappointment. I'm very confident that Mr. Bullitt will be a strong addition to the council as someone with a background in planning. I know he's someone who's thoughtful and will take this work very seriously. And then Mark Morandi to fill out that unexpired term as someone who is works for MCLA and with the MCLA Foundation on some of their property business. He'll be very effective in some of the questions and some of the issues of leasing that are before the Airport Commission at this time. So I am confident and enthusiastic in these three appointments.
Discussion from the council? Yes, Councilor Buddington.
I'd like to ask through the chair to the mayor whether Mr. Bullitt or Mr. Morandi have any, whether they have current involvement with the airport?
They do not.
Any other discussion from the councilors? Discussion from the gallery? Hearing no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Or motion, yes, thank you. Paper number 11,650, Mayor's Communication. Number 9, recommending the reappointment of Christine Naughton to the appointment of Ashley Shade to the Human Service Commission for a term to expire February 1st, 2021. I need a motion to confirm the appointments.
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
We'll give Harpin that one. And Jason, Councilor Forrest, second. Let's see. Mayor.
Thank you. To clarify what the function of the Human Service Commission is at the present time, the Human Service Commission serves as the grant evaluating body for the city's Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, social services campaign. We allocate a portion of our annual CDBG award, federal or block grant award to projects focused on social services. It's a mini entitlement grant program that fluctuates year over year based on other priorities within the program. It's been as high as about $65,000 a year, and in the past few years has hovered around the $20,000 to $25,000 range in the amount of funding available to the committee to award. And that's done through an RFP process that's issued annually. Over the past several years, it's gone out in the late spring in order to align with the start of the fiscal year. So the committee meets several times during that period to look at the proposals and bring them forward. I know this because I am the former chair of the Human Services Commission, and one of the vacancies on the commission is there because I'm no longer able to serve. So bringing forward currently 2 of 4 vacancies. I'll be bringing 2 more forward at an upcoming meeting to bring that committee up to its full membership of 7 in time for the spring cycle. So Christine Naughton, who's been a member of the committee for, I believe it's the past 3 years, so this would be a re-up for her. Brings a good perspective as a development and fundraising person, and I'm really enthusiastic to have Ashley Shade join the committee. I think she'll bring a really valuable perspective to the work, and this is a committee that has some potential to consider and to explore other purposes in the city. So if you were to look at the code and what the commission is empowered to do versus the role that it has played over the past few cycles, there's latitude for them to really consider what what else could they do? What else would they want to consider going forward? So I think this is a moment and an opportunity as we rebuild the committee to take that energy and to take that interest and see what else could be accomplished with them.
Thank you. Any discussion from councilors? In the gallery? Hearing no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Paper number 11,651, communication from Councilor President Bona regarding the city's shooting range. And need a motion to refer to Public Safety Committee and to the Police Director.
So moved.
Councilor Cohen? Councilor Wilkinson was a second?
No, it was me.
Mr.
sorry.
Lamb. Counselor Lamb.
Sound alike.
Gotta give you lights. And discussion from the council. I can explain why I brought forward, and actually I do know there's someone in the audience who maybe will speak. But in the past month, I've actually had 3 different members of the community come and have questions or ideas for the shooting range. This is something that comes forward, it seems like every few years. Sometimes it's issues, sometimes it's complaints. But Mr. Lyons, who's here, he approached me a couple weeks ago, and he sort of has a positive twist to this. So I'm going to let him get up and speak and maybe express his idea. And I also did speak with the director. So without getting too much detail, I sort of would like this to go to public safety. And I think it's good for the new counselors and even the current administration. The shooting range is an amenity we have, just like some other parks and recs, and you know, and even our DPW and places like that. That it is something we have in the city, and sometimes it's forgotten about because it is way up in the boony part of our city. But it is something we do have, and I think we need to make sure we take care of it appropriately. But if there's any discussion from the councilors first, please let me know, and otherwise we'll move on to Mr. Lyons. Anyone? Okay. From the public. Name and address for the record, please.
Robert Lyons, 17 Gunther Street, North Adams. Just a couple concerns. One, regarding the keys and how to access the shooting range. I know by word that many keys have been copied. That lock has not been changed in I can't tell you how many years. I have a feeling we have a very large loss of revenue from that. I'd like to see the lock changed, or maybe a new electronic gate system put in if possible. I know, obviously, budgeting, but with the gaining of the revenue from changing the locks, I think it would be possible. Security. I think there should be some kind of security up there. I noticed from a lot of other ranges that I'm part of that they have cameras. Whether they work or not, I don't know. But a video camera will make somebody think twice. The mess that is left up there is unacceptable, and I think with some kind of security that would eliminate that. Maybe making it more useful, opening it up Monday through Saturday. I understand Sundays. I don't think it should be open on Sundays. I also would like to see where we could have some kind of youth program up there. I know it says 14 years old, I believe, or 18. I'd like to have that age brought down to maybe 9. My daughter is a shooter. She likes to shoot. I think proper training and education is great for children to a certain age. And another reason of opening it longer and making it more useful to the public is owning a gun is only one step. Proper training, coming back and preparing yourself and understanding everything and continuing education on that fact is a very key factor of owning a weapon. But my biggest concern really is the keys and security. And I'd also like to see it more open in the winter, whether the city can maintain that plowing.
2 minutes,
or
right?
not. So, I know it's not plowed.
Anyone else like to speak on this? Yes. Mr. Whitney, name and address for the Record, please.
David Whitney, 51 Burnham Street. I've been going up to that range since 1962. The bench that you shoot off for rifles was there then, and that's before me. The gate is bent like a pretzel, and all this talk, you had to get the new thing, you had to get the new key, all this stuff. They ought to put a new bench in, have McCann built it out of wood, get a bulldozer up there and make it 100 yards instead of 94. Grade the road and maybe put in water bars. Anybody that deals with dirt roads know you have to put a couple water bars in so it doesn't wash out. I mean, there's a lot of things that could be done up there. When I was a kid, I used to go up there and clean up all the computers, the TV sets, everything that people brought up there. After a while, I gave up on it. So now I just go up and I shoot. I bring my umbrella and I shoot. And the other thing is about the range, all the noise. This thing's been there since before me, 1962 when I first went up. It isn't like it was just there overnight. People that complain, it's like moving next to the railroad tracks and you looked at a house but the train wasn't going by. And even if you just built a brand new house or you just moved there, the range has been there for how many years? And it's a nice asset. I would think that we could improve on it a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the gallery? Yes. Name and address for the record, please.
Robert Cardamino, 173 East Quincy. I've been shooting up there longer than him. But anyway, I had an idea. I know the neighbors that moved up there don't like the noise. But I had an idea to maybe get some sauna tubes and put them on the bench, one inside the other, cut some holes and put some absorbent in there, so when you shoot into it, it absorbs the noise and the concussion. It wouldn't take a lot of money, but it's maybe help the neighbors out up there. And he's absolutely right. But what they ought to do is add a fine for somebody, if you catch somebody throwing it up there, get their number plate, turn them in, and fine them. Because there's a few guys that do go up there and clean up. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the gallery, please? Counselors again, anyone? So I will say I did talk to the director today, and the trash is an ongoing problem. People do bring TVs and computers and things like up there, and they shoot them and they just leave them. And so I'd like to see this again go to committee, just to keep the discussion going, and maybe there's some ideas that can come out of this to improve it. As for you already spoke, sorry. Yeah. As for neighbors complaining, the complaints I have has not so much been during just the day, during the regular shooting. It's usually off hours, so it's people going up there at 7, 8 in the morning. The director did let me know that neighbors do call and they do respond. It's not the quickest because of where it's located and depending on what other priorities are there, but that is an issue. So again, current motion on the floor is to refer it to public safety and to the police director. With no other discussion, oh yes, Councilor Buddington.
If I may, through the chair too, I guess the mayor, if he knows, is there electricity available at the range?
I don't.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Solar's always an option. And we also need to have a date of when this can come back. I know we're probably throwing a lot at public safety. I don't think there's an immediate rush, so.
We do have the meeting coming up for the first referral from tonight. I don't know that we could fit both of those into one meeting. Between the, so second meeting in March to bring back? Yeah. So the meeting of March 27th, I believe.
Okay. So the motion is to refer to public safety and to the police director and postpone till the second meeting of March, or March 27th. And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'll make sure to give Counselor Lamb, who's the chairman of the Public Safety, my contacts that I know that would be probably interested in this.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any community calendar events? This is a new thing added to our agenda, and this is open to the public or council. A lot of times councilors would bring this up during council's concerns, but this would be the place now to do it. Also, the community, if there are any public events or programs or certain things that are coming up that you want to announce, this would be the time you have the, do that. It does not take your time out of open forum. Any community events? Yes.
I have one. I was looking on Facebook the other day, and I noticed the Hoosick River Revival has a couple meetings coming up in February. One is Wednesday, February 21st, 11:30 to 1 at the Uno Community Center. And the other one is Wednesday, February 28th from 5:30 to 7, and that's at the Green on 87 Main Street. This is about redoing the Hoosick River. I was lucky enough to see Judy Grinnell give her presentation at the TEDx Forum, and I thought she was phenomenal. I would encourage anybody that's interested in seeing what her plans are for the river to go ahead and do that. She's put a lot of time and effort into it already, and she has some wonderful ideas, so I would encourage others to attend those two meetings.
Anyone else? Yes, Counselor Lamb.
Winterfest is this weekend. All kinds of stuff happening downtown. It may be 50 degrees out, but it's still Winterfest. So get out, walk around, enjoy what we've got going on in the city.
I believe it's 10 to 4.
Yes.
I'll be judging chowder.
Yes.
Very important job.
Excited about it. Me too.
Any other events, calendar notices? Not hearing any other, we'll move on to open forum. Do we have anyone who wants to speak in open forum? Yes, we'll pick it, then you, okay? Yeah. Yeah, you can come first, yeah. Yeah. Up to the mic first, name and address for the record, please.
My name is Nathan Turowski. I should preface this by saying that I actually live in Greenfield. I'm here on the behalf of a nonprofit that does work throughout New England. 729 Colerain Road, Greenfield. That's Colrain. I'm here to ask a few questions of the town council, if I might.
Yeah, so open forum does not allow us to respond. Now, you can ask the questions, and possibly after the meeting, some counselors, there may be some things that could be easily answered, but if you want to just wait till after the meeting, you can ask your questions, but we might be able to respond, but we're not allowed to do debate.
I can just ask after the meeting if that's...
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's a survey to do with the Mohawk Trail Woodlands Partnership, so I actually do need to ask the questions and get answers, so I can wait until after the meeting.
All right, but if you want to ask the questions, counselors who are interested may approach you after.
Okay.
Okay, you do have 2 minutes.
Okay, question number 1, are you familiar with the Mohawk Trail Woodlands Partnership, yes or no? Question number 2, did you get a copy of the plan, yes, no, or don't remember? Question number 3, did you read it, yes, no, or don't remember? Question number 4, did you get a copy of the law, yes, no, or don't remember? Question number 5, did the city council send a letter of support for the law to our legislators, yes, no, or don't remember? Question number 6, who was your advisory committee member? Question number 7, has he or she updated you about the partnership, yes, no, or don't remember? Question number 8, did you attend the community meeting that was held at some point probably in the spring of 2014? Yes, no, or don't remember. Now here's the juicy ones. Question number 9, how do you think the partnership will affect your city? Question number 10, what do you think are the most important parts of the partnership? Question number 11, do you feel that your town boards and residents had sufficient input in the partnership process? Question number 12, did you sign up for the UMass Clean Energy Extension evaluation of the city's heating needs? Question number 13, have you received a copy of the report? Question number 14, if the UMass CEE made suggestions to you, what were they and were they helpful? There's quite a bit here, but if a counselor would just approach me after the meeting and answer some of them, I'd be perfectly happy. I'd be perfectly content with that.
I have a feeling Counselor Buddington will jump on that.
I can't help much, but I'll be happy to talk.
Okay.
I'll stick around.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry for not understanding this
Oh,
process.
no,
I
no,
just
that's
haven't-
fine, that's fine, and I wanted to make sure you guys.
Previously, I've only done this with towns that have open town meeting forms of governments, and select boards tend to be a little less formal about this stuff. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
I'm sure someone will approach you after. We're almost done. And, yes.
Robert Cardamino, 173 East Quincy. I brought this sign because the council is in violation of the U.S. Constitution. Article 6, Section 2, the supreme law of the land, that's what it is. It supersedes council rules, it supersedes state rules, and it supersedes, in some cases, part of the Constitution. That is the supreme law of the land, and there's nothing in there that says that you can restrict freedom of speech. So I would just suggest it takes 2 minutes. Some places have 3. In, I think it was Virginia, to the state legislator, they have 45 minutes to address them. So close your ears for 2 minutes. If you don't want to hear what's said, let people have their say, and we'll move on and we can get along fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Whitney.
David Whitney, 51 Burnham Street. Because of the rules, I couldn't ask another question. I wanted to ask the counselors, how many of you actually know where the shooting range is? Because too many, I brought up things and nobody bothers to ask any questions. You know, I don't know where you can buy a map, or if you want, go down to the DPW and ask them where it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the gallery? Not hearing anyone else, we will move on to liaison updates and counselors' concerns. So again, this is, oh, I'm skipping the mayors. Sorry. Mayor first. Yes.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick items. I want to provide an update to the council on the February school committee and 2 shared services conversations. You may have seen this in the media. One is related to the opportunity to hire or to enter into a shared services agreement with the Northern Berkshire School Union for a shared business manager. This is following the retirement of our former business manager and finding that we couldn't find in the pool a candidate who had the licensure and the certification we needed. This was a solution that we're interested in going forward with. And then the related conversation is around considering a shared superintendent arrangement. This was the conversation in principle, but it's a timely one because we're looking at the upcoming retirement of the Adams-Cheshire superintendent. And in the context of the collaboration that we already have with that district, we're going forward with the consideration toward, would this be a opportunity we would want to investigate more. It's important to keep in mind with this that it's a shared services agreement. We're not talking about governance. So if we had a shared superintendent, that person would report to 2 school committees. And we do have some funding through a collaboration grant from Nellie Mae to engage some technical assistance to explore that. So this has started to come out into the press, and there will be more, and I'll keep the council posted as we go forward. I know that there's been activity online about the question of changes coming to the cable system, and I wanted to address those in brief, if I may. I called a meeting yesterday with representatives from Charter to discuss community concerns related to service level changes. So they brought in their Director of Government Affairs and then a couple of their tech folks. And on our side, Representative Barrett was with me as well. We want to really understand the timing, the cost, and the quality assurance related to these changeovers in the cable system, which are going to require for many people a set-top box on every television in their account to decrypt a new digital signal. And these are signals that are, these are boxes that will need to be rented rather than purchased. So We know that this has caused some confusion and some frustration. There are a lot of reasons for that. People who still have Time Warner packages versus people who have charter packages. They brought their communications, and other than a sentence in bold at the top of each, it's all very formalized. But if you don't know that this is the deal that you're offered if you live in an apartment complex that has a bulk arrangement with the cable company, as opposed to someone who's just getting basic cable plus the access channels, versus somebody who's got the successor agreement with Time Warner versus somebody who's got the agreement with Charter. It really is very confusing, and there's different costs to all of those. One concern that they're coming back to us on is the appropriateness and, in fact, the legality of requiring a set-top box for somebody who just has the basic package and the access to the public educational and government channels. Does that box basically create a surcharge? And for somebody who's on a Time Warner plan, a $17.99 cable package is going to run them an additional $12 in service per television. So there is a concern, and they're going to come back and make sure that we understand that. They did talk about possible workarounds, people who own TVs that have the Spectrum app, or if you want to buy a Roku, that gives you some alternatives. But those are just some of the things that they're talking about. The community should continue to report issues that they experience. Charter will have additional reps on hand as this transition kicks in on the 20th. So as people go in, they will staff up to accommodate that. And then for people who have difficulty with the installation and make a service call, Charter did say that for something that really is basically just walking in and plugging in a wire, their techs do have the latitude to waive a service fee. So that's something to keep in mind. I want to report, and I think others may as well, briefly on the Public Safety Committee meeting that happened just prior to this meeting. This is a follow-up to the communication that was presented to the council at the meeting of January 23rd, that Councilor Harpen and Lamb requested some action on the understanding the issue of domestic violence in the community. It was referred to my office and to the Public Safety Committee. And this was a response to the tragic incident in the community, the homicide in early January. We also know this is an issue that's received national attention in recent days with stories of domestic violence connected to the White House. So this is a timely issue. It is on a lot of people's minds, and we want to make sure that we're addressing it. We had a good conversation. There were a number of providers from different agencies there. The police director, the superintendent, and some community members who gave some really powerful testimony. And a couple of takeaways. One is that we begin to understand the gaps in services that exist, as well as the gaps that exist in awareness. And we were challenged to not just talk about the services that are available for survivors and victims, but the responsibility that members of the community have, and this is particularly men in the community, to be allies and to be modeling and to be calling out behavior and setting norms of what is acceptable and what is unacceptable. And a next step from all of this is that the Northern Berkshire Community Coalition is devoting their March forum on March 16th to understanding and responding relational violence in the community. And that'll be a partnership of the coalition, the Elizabeth Freeman Center, and the United Way. So that's a starting point. And I would say, going back to the conversation about the Human Service Commission, this would be something it would be hopeful that we could prioritize as a human service priority in the next round of CDBG funding. Next Tuesday, February 20th at 7 p.m. right here in these chambers, I will be offering my State of the City comments. Members of the council heard about that, but that will also be open to the public, and it will be broadcast on NBCTC as well. I want to let you know that the FY 2019 budget process has begun within City Hall. I'm working with department heads to begin to look at their budget needs and their budget recommendations goal toward bringing forward a process and a timeline at the next meeting, connecting with the Finance Committee so that we know what the timeline for getting the budget brought forward will look like. One piece of good funding news that's coming up, you may have seen in the press, that thanks to the efforts of Senator Hines, the city was included in the state's capital bond bill to the tune of $1.2 million for engineering, design, and a siting study for a new public safety building. It's important to remember this is a bond issue, so it needs to go through conference committee. Our priority needs to continue to be included, and then when it went out to bond, this would be included, and then we would begin the process of getting that money appropriated to do that work. So it's a ways out, but it's a positive step toward addressing an issue that we really need to look at. So I'm grateful to Senator Hines for championing this. This is something that I started working on with the previous administration during the transition, and we'll continue to advocate with the rep and the senator, as well as with the Baker administration, as this moves forward. The last thing I would mention is, winter cleanup is underway. We all know that winter in New England means potholes. And after the last bout of weather, they did some patching, and what immediately happened was it rained, and a lot of that patch got washed away. So with the last storm, we have seen more potholes. The good news is, while it may be a bummer for Winterfest, we have seen that we have a period of warmer weather. So the crews were out starting today, and they will be out over the course of this week trying to deal with as much of the patching and addressing of the potholes as possible. For potholes and any other issues, you should contact Public Services Dispatch 662-3047, and they're servicing everything out of the new building. I know that iBerkshire's got down there to take a look at it, and there'll be a story forthcoming on that. So thank you, Tammy, for helping to get the word out on that, and hopefully that'll clarify some of the questions raised in previous meetings.
Thank you. Liaison updates and counselors' concerns. Yes, Counselor Lamb, then Counselor Wilkinson.
I do have printouts of this for everyone. I apologize for not handing them out prior to the meeting. I have a report from my Mass MoCA liaison. Just a few items that I received. So number one, Mass MoCA, in coordination with the city and a number of other city stakeholders, has begun planning for year 2 of the North Adams Exchange program. This is the program that installed Game On, which is in the former Sleepy's, and 87 Pop, which was at 87 Main Street this past summer, as well as the Steeples Light Project, Cloudland, which was the blinking lights on the steeples. Year 2 of the project planning began this month, and they broadened the group of individuals and entities involved in that planning. So there will be more about that coming down the pike. Number 2, Free Day on January 20th saw attendance of 3,100 people. Number 3, the monthly Free to the 01247 on the 4s, which is a program that on the 4th of the month during the off season is free to North Adams residents, but also Clarksburg and Florida, because they share the zip code. It continues to draw nice attendance, with about 15% of daily visitation on the 4th days of the month being free admission to residents in the 01247 zip code. Number 4, Mass MoCA was free to all of Berkshire County residents the first 3 weeks of January, and saw around 2,000 individuals participate in the Free to the Berkshires program. 5, while Mass MoCA is usually closed on Tuesdays in the non-summer months, it will remain open on Tuesday, February 20th during school vacation week to accommodate the school vacation traffic. And 6, recently the Mass MoCA Board of Trustees welcomed its new member, Susie Helm, to join them on the board.
Thank you.
That is my liaison report from Mass MoCA.
Thank you. Counselor Wilkinson.
Well, this is going to seem kind of petty after all the important stuff that we talked about tonight. And if I could, through the chair, I'd like to ask the mayor, in your negotiations with the cable company, are we finally going to get Channel 4 in HD for all the sports fans?
We didn't talk about that specifically. We'll go back to them on that.
Okay. This side. Yes? Sure.
I didn't have a meeting yet. Thursday.
So I just wanted to share, after a conversation at the MMA convention, I had expressed some interest in serving on a policy committee for the MMA, and I did receive an email this afternoon. The Board of Directors confirmed an appointment for me to the Personnel and Labor Relations Committee that will meet monthly in Boston. I did sit in as a guest on the committee meeting last week, and there were a couple of interesting presentations on the governor's budget, and then a couple of initiatives that are happening in the state. So I just wanted to share those. There's been a lot in the press about the governor's budget, so I won't get into that too much here. But there was a presentation on mobile integrated health, which is an opportunity for the reduction of EMS transfers and unnecessary emergency room visits. So that's something, it's just in the conversation stage, but may benefit people who need medical assistance in a rural area like this. And then a couple of new laws that are going to be initiated this year, some of which affect the city. One is the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, which becomes law on April 1st, and that protects pregnant employees and prospective, I guess I shouldn't say prospective pregnant employees, pregnant prospective employees, an equal pay law, and then an OSHA bill that will allow the state to regulate OSHA requirements for municipal employees that are currently only available to executive employees. So looking forward to participating with the committee going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Congratulations.
Any other counselors? Not hearing any, we will move on to licenses, and I believe we have one license in front of us. Do I have it? Oh, it's right here in front of me. Application for license to drive a taxi from Kenneth M. Upton, 292 Beaver Street, North Adams, Mass. I need a motion to grant the license.
Move to grant.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Discussion from council. Yes, Councilor Buddington.
This is fairly trivial, but I'm glad to see that the driver's license number is redacted, but it's not redacted effectively.
Any other discussion from councilors? Any discussion from public? Not hearing any other, all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Strawberry.
What's that?
Strawberry.
Yeah. All right. Correspondence, I think we have one correspondence in our paper, or in our envelope, from the Commonwealth, from the Department of Agricultural Resources. And I also know the city clerk has passed out envelopes to everyone. My suggestion is just to ignore it. If you don't open it, it can't happen. All right. And motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn. Thank you.